It's all about the journey. Where were you going? Fire in my eyes, I keep on growing. This is a little personal, the LA Project Show.
Doctor?
All right, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of the LA Project. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. We're going to continue on with the Nolan Wells case and following Nancy Grace's coverage. But we're going to go ahead and jump into it, all right? Without further delay. Make sure that you hit that like, share, subscribe if you have not already. All right? Keep your notification bell on, or you are notified every time that we go live. You keep up with this information on this case as it unfolds. All right. Okay. Now the Nolan Wells case, has taken another troubling turn, and I think it's one that I think it deserves a serious conversation. As a lot of you guys know, this case is everybody's paying attention to it. It's been captivating people across the country. An 18-year-old young man goes missing after a 4th of July boat trip, right? 2 days later, he's found deceased. More than a month later, the official autopsy findings still haven't been publicly released. An independent examination has raised additional questions, but the investigation remains active. That uncertainty has created a vacuum, one that has been filled with frustration, speculation, and growing demands for answers. We all want to know what happened to this young man. Well, some of us more than others. I'm pretty sure there's at least one person who wished this would all go away, but country's not having that. All right. But in the midst of all that, something has happened that should concern everyone, regardless of where you stand on this case. If you think it is an accident, if you think the friends were involved, if you think that something in terms of foul play happened, no matter where you stand on this case, we should pay attention to something. Federal authorities have now been charging multiple individuals from outside the Mississippi area with allegedly making violent threats connected to Nolan Wells' investigation. Now, according to some of these court documents, one person is accused of making repeated bomb threats that force governments into temporary lockdowns for the safety of their employees. Another allegedly sent death threats to a judge connected to someone else involved in the case. And we are going to get into that because when I found out the connection, I couldn't believe it. But we will get into that. But now, authorities say a third individual has been charged after allegedly threatening with witnesses, all right, law enforcement, and even family members associated with the investigation. So I know that there has been reports of Nolan's mother, her business receiving negative feedback, negative reviews, and also, like I said, just threats. And she's the one, you know what I mean, that's a part of the family that's suffering, waiting for answers to roll out about the passing of her son. Shouts out to everybody in the building. We got Riaz and Candy Kane. What's going on? You guys are on the vertical side. Make sure to double tap the screen, okay? Like the video. Helps out the channel so much. All right. So think about that for a minute, right? This investigation isn't just about finding out what happened to Nolan anymore. Investigators are now spending manpower and time, taxpayer resources, responding to bomb threats, protecting witnesses, and investigating people who have absolutely no firsthand knowledge of what happened on Horn Island, right? And that's a problem. There's a very important distinction between demanding accountability and engaging with someone in intimidation. Yes. Yep, the threats. I do have both of the news reports, including the two individuals who recently were charged with with basically well, they'll get into that, but yeah, with basically making these intimidating phone calls. If somebody believes mistakes were made, you know, then it's time to ask the hard questions. You know, that's why there's different roles in law enforcement and also in court proceedings. If somebody believes evidence has been overlooked, then we need to advocate for transparency, right? Those are legitimate responses to democracy, right? Threatening to delete witnesses and threatening judges and things like that. None of that brings Nolan Wells any closer to justice. In fact, it risks doing the actual opposite. And that's why I've stressed, you know, with certain individuals, whether it be Officer Brandon Tatum and others, people, like I said, we want answers and things like that, but there is a process because it risks the integrity of the case. Threats can intimidate witnesses. They complicate prosecutions, divert investigators from the central questions, right? That create opportunities for defense attorneys to argue that public hysteria has tainted the process. This is what mistrials are born from, okay? This is where they come from. The misinformation part and the intimidation. They also shift media attention away from Nolan himself and onto the conduct of the people inserting themselves into the story, which I totally understand. In terms of just kind of asking for, you know, I guess people to, of course, be upset, but let's go about it in the right ways instead of jeopardizing any aspect of this case. All right. So let's start with one of these news articles. Give me 1 second. Just gotta make sure it's the right one. All right, cool. All right, let's get one of these articles up here on the screen, shall we? And this is from ABC. And don't worry if you guys are not paying attention to the screen and more just listening while you're working or driving, I will read the article to you. So continue to stay safe. Okay. A California man has been charged with threatening a Mississippi judge whose son is tied to the Nolan Wells case, according to a recently unsealed federal complaint. Joseph Alfredo Vasquez Dumarce. I'm going to just say, Mr. Vasquez, age 27, allegedly messaged Jackson County Chancery Court Judge Ashley Cole on social media, threatening to send a bomb to her office that will blow you away when you see it. Once that package is open, this is in quotations, right? So this must have been what the message actually said. The message reads, once that package is open, the timer will start. And then you will have maybe 10 seconds or less to ask God for forgiveness. The message said, according to a court document filed in federal court. It continues to say, so much blood everywhere, hard to clean, especially from a boat, end quote. Shouts out to DJ Witch Doctor in the building. Wells, age 18, vanished after going on a 4th of July boat trip with his friends to Horn Island, a barrier island about 10 miles from the Gulf Coast, officials said. Cole's son, Warren, the judge who was being threatened, her son is the friend Warren, was among those on Horn Island that day too, the judge has said. So her son is one of the gentlemen or the young men going on giving his accounts and doing interviews. That's Warren's mom. Warren's mom is the judge that received these threats. Wells' body was recovered on July the 6th, and authorities said they suspect he drowned. Actually, the authorities reported that he drowned before a body was even found. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. It just did. The investigation into his death is ongoing. His official state autopsy has been completed, officials said Thursday, though the results have not been made public. I apologize. The messages to Cole were sent on Facebook Messenger days after Wells' body was discovered under the name Yay 962, which an FBI agent traced to DeMarcy, according to the complaint. He also allegedly called her court's offices on July 11th, according to the complaint. DeMarcy has been charged with sending a threat to injure another person. Online court records do not list any attorney information for him. Cole posted a screenshot of the messages contained in the complaint to her own Facebook account on July 9th, days before DeMarcy was charged. In the Facebook post, she says she will not be speaking to the media at this time, saying it is not the appropriate forum to further elaborate on the facts of July 4th, 2026. We realize that the truth will not stop the calls for the death of all our small children, she added. Cole said her family will do everything within our power to assist Nolan's family in their quest for answers. We also want to know what has happened to Nolan. Cole has previously said her son last saw Wells around 3 p.m. on 4th of July.
Robin loves to treat herself, but
Why I wanted to start all of a sudden. Okay. According to Cole, her son left Horn Island with others a short time later, at which point Wells was still on the island. Her son was interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and cooperated fully, she said. So not only Warren's mama is a judge. Did y'all know that? I had no idea. Now, I guess a lot of people, they is it buffering for y'all? All right. I know that, just for the sake of where the location of where this situation happened, there's already a lot of worry and speculation, just because Mississippi has a reputation all of its own when it comes to justice for African Americans. But the fact that one of the main friends who's been the most vocal mother is an actual judge in the state of Mississippi blows my mind. That's usually what ends up being the problems in a lot of these situations. Especially like, some of these small town crimes and things like that. There's the potential for the conflict of interest is higher than we ever thought. People become prosecutors, They might be lawyers, judges, actual officers of the law that are related to and connected to certain individuals who might be involved in the case. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm going to do a quick sound check. Just hang tight with me.
Doctor.
All right. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm just going to continue, and it might just be better on the replay. I did see this happening on a different live stream earlier today where it kind of was buffering, stutter stopping, and stuff like that. But we're going to keep going. You know, if it's too much or it gets to be a little too annoying, just catch on the replay, and it should be better, hopefully, by then. But we're going to also go and look at the second arrest that was made. This is something else that has kind of surprised me, because the first arrests involving this case have nothing to do with any potential suspects or anybody who was at the same place at the same time. The arrest didn't start with them, and that's what really surprises me, because as of this moment, no official charges in direct connection to the unaliving of Nolan Wells has been made. But these arrests have. So let's get to the second one. Just want to show you guys this before we get into the actual video review. All right. And this is from People Magazine. So let's go to that. All right. Okay, so this is what needs to be known. An Ohio woman is facing federal charges after she allegedly made bomb threats targeting at Mississippi government offices amid Nolan Wells' death investigation. Michelle Edwards allegedly made 29 total threatening calls, referencing bombs and using a blocked caller ID. Edwards is the second person arrested for making threats to Mississippi officials following the death of Wells. An Ohio woman is facing federal charges after she allegedly made bomb threats targeting at Mississippi government offices, making her the second person arrested for sending threatening messages to officials in the state amid Nolan Wells' death investigation. According to filings obtained by the Sun Herald, WBTV, and WLOX, Michelle Francine Edwards of Cincinnati was charged on Thursday, July the 30th, with transmitting in interstate commerce a threatening communication to unalive or injure another person and to damage or destroy a building. Investigators allege that Edwards made multiple threatening phone calls on July 23rd to the George County Chancery Clerk's Office and the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, which is investigating Wells' death. Edwards allegedly began calling the George County Chancery Clerk's Office at about 1:34 p.m. local time while using star 67, which blocks a number's caller ID. You guys, star 67. All right. She placed 21 total calls over an 8-minute period, which she allegedly threatened employees, making statements referencing a bomb. Do not go outside, she said in one call, according to the filing obtained by the outlets. The clock is ticking, she said in another. Die, Edwards said in yet another call. About 20 minutes later, Edwards began calling the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Investigators allege she is accused of blocking her caller ID and placing about 8 calls to the sheriff's office, during which she allegedly said to dispatchers, "Y'all got a bomb outside. Don't come out. Beep. Y'all still there?" she asked in a subsequent call, according to investigators. The JCSO conducted a complete bomb sweep and locked down the property. No explosive devices were found. Investigators submitted an emergency disclosure request to C Spire and Verizon, which provided them with the phone number used on the calls. They found the phone number registered to a Cash App account using an open source search, and found that the account was associated with the name Michelle Edwards. Cincinnati Police Department records obtained by investigators using a federal law enforcement database also listed Edwards as the owner of the number, the outlets reported. Edwards is the second person arrested for making threats to Mississippi public officials and government offices in the weeks since Wells went missing, and was later found unalived after a large 4th of July party on Horn Island, located just off of the state's coast. Joseph Alfredo Vasquez was arrested and charged on Thursday, July 30th, also with interstate transmission of a threatening communication. All right. And we just went over Mr. Vasquez's his article, that you can find that on ABC. So we don't need to go over that anymore. Let me see here. All right. Federal investigators said they tracked down Dumarcy's using the email associated with his Facebook account. Wells' parents have also said they have received threats online and in person as they continue pleading for more answers in their son's disappearance and death. If convicted, Edwards faces a maximum of 5 years in federal prison, a fine of up to $250,000, and up to 3 years of supervised release. So that is the recent developments in terms of the threats to law officials in Mississippi. And unfortunately, the threats have not ceased for the Wells family and the friends of Nolan as well. Shouts out to Ola. What's going on? No, you be having the best life, Ola. You just woke up. It is 3:30, sir. Okay. Nevertheless, let's continue. All right. So friends who were on the boat, members of Nolan's family, public officials, and others connected to the investigation have all reported receiving harassment or threats online. And this has prompted the FBI to assist in investigating interstate communications, as was just described in the articles that we just read. That doesn't mean that every person receiving criticism is above scrutiny, okay? Public criticism and asking difficult questions are a part of accountability. But, of course, there is a fine line. Yes, I did. Federal. They going to the top. That's why I was just Black Lexicon. Welcome to the show. That's what, like I said, I was very, of course, getting information that arrests had been made. I knew I shouldn't have got so excited so quick, because the arrests have nothing to do with actually like the individuals who were the last people to see Nolan or who were with Nolan on the day that he went missing. None of the arrests or none of the charges are applicable to those people as of yet. The current charges and arrests have been for people who are out from the outside looking in. Also shedding a big spotlight on the fact that Warren's mother is an actual judge in the state of Mississippi. Now, I got to double check and see exactly what area, what city she's in. I hope it's not the same one that they live in, because, again, that would be a huge conflict of interest, and it would just make the actual selection of where the court proceedings are going to happen a little bit more difficult. Shouts out to Deborah Leonelli. Glad to see you, hon. Let me see here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's just like anything else, Deborah. She says, what is the point of these people doing this? Do they know how serious it is to make a bomb threat? Their lives will be basically ruined. Just dumb. Yeah, I mean, they F-O and F out. F-A-F-O. They F around and found out, okay? They are being charged federally with just that action alone. So, sometimes we got to learn from, and this is what my favorite thing I like to do. I don't need to put my hand on the stove to know that shit is hot. You know what I mean? To know that it burns. Sometimes, you know, the best lessons that you can learn is by watching somebody else save yourself. You know what I mean? At least you know what could potentially happen if you follow the same the same path or same, the same steps as somebody else. So yeah, they F around and found out that Star 67 ain't as reliable as you think it is. That's why even when it comes to all the text messages, photos, Snapchats, whatever, they're going to find those. They're going to find every single one of those guys. So y'all, please be patient. Forensics on the electronic and technological level is way beyond. And the average person does not really need to know the capabilities of everything, or we would just be better criminals in essence, right? But yeah, it's just like anybody else, somebody who just doesn't agree or doesn't understand the reason why, the court process, the justice system, it follows a certain course. It follows certain steps, and it just is what it is. You know what I mean? But please believe, with as big a case as this is, and as much traction and as much attention as it's receiving, it's not going anywhere. It is not going anywhere, no matter how much, the person or the persons involved would love for this to just all go away. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So hang tight, y'all. I promise. All right. But the Wells family, at the end of the day, they deserve answers. And again, some people are triggered. I was listening to an interview. Somebody was actually asking Nancy Grace questions and talking to her about the situation. And for her, not only are Nancy Grace's children, she has twins. She says she has a twin, a boy and a girl. They're twins. They're Nolan's age, right? But also, unfortunately, Nancy was I guess she's experienced this before. She shared that this was years ago, but a person that she was engaged to, so her fiance, unfortunately, was deleted before their wedding. So sometimes what fuels or what drives people is the trigger or the reminder of something else that they've been through. But I definitely don't agree with making death threats. You know what I mean? Like I said, these people, if they're appointed or if they're a part of the actual process of finding out the truth, being able to charge individuals and to, go through the process of seeing exactly what their fate is or what type of sentence they should receive. You know what I mean? We got to let them do their job. You know what I mean? Taking somebody out or threatening to cause some type of chaos, damage, and harm to others is just not cool. There has to be a line, right? At the same time, I also think that it's important to acknowledge why, like I said, the emotions run so high. So they're not excuses. They're just maybe some reasons, right? People have watched conflicting timelines emerge, all right? They've watched contradictory statements circulate online. There have been, unofficial documents spreading across social media, some of which Mississippi officials have publicly stated are fake. They've seen weeks pass without definitive public answers. It's frustrating. That uncertainty naturally fuels suspicion in people or in the public. Whether those suspicions, prove justified is exactly what a thorough investigation, and in this case, they're saying it's appropriate to add a grand jury process to this situation. It's supposed to determine that. All of those things, that's what it's supposed to help determine the suspicion, right? And even the autopsy has been completed, and it's sealed, to my understanding, because they're waiting for the grand jury process. All right. They're still investigating the situation, even though the autopsy has been completed. It's just going to remain sealed until they actually have this grand jury process. If anyone is responsible for Nolan's, passing, they should be held fully accountable under the law. But accountability built on evidence usually is stronger than accountability driven by outrage. You know what I'm saying? We're not saying not feel anything, but we have to rely on the evidence, and we have to believe that the team that's going to represent the Wells family is going to do just that. Now, as this case continues to unfold, let's keep our focus where it belongs, okay? And that's on the facts, on the evidence, and on the pursuit of truth. Not on threats, as that only distracts from the search for justice, all right? At the end of the day, this case should never stop being about Nolan. Never. All right? So, yeah, unfortunately, there's more individuals who are hurting the situation more than helping by taking measures into their own hands to intimidate individuals, right? But we want people to come out. We want people to speak about what happened. We don't need people to be, so scared that they don't want to be involved. You know what I mean? We're counting on the eyes and ears that were present that day. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get into, since we talked about and we've updated about the arrests and threats, let's get into some more information with Nancy Grace, because Nancy be on their head. All right. Nancy be on their head. So we're going to pull up something that she just released less than a day ago. All right. Give me 1 second while I go into my YouTube and pull it up. Appreciate everybody that's in the building, both on the horizontal and vertical side. Please make sure that you either tap the screen twice or leave a thumbs up for me to like the video. All right, give me 1 second. We go into my history and get this bad boy pulled up. It's not going to be, oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just going to make sure that I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. And I'm going to run it back because I had to.
But the bottom line is,
I wanted to review it a little bit just to make sure that it was relevant. Like I said, we're picking up where we left off. The last episode of the LA Project, you guys can check on the playlist there. We listened to the audio that was provided by, let me see here. It was provided by the emergency service that usually deals with, like I said, watercraft and things like that. If you have some type of issue or need some assistance or any type of any type of help, then that's where basically where the information came from. All right. Now, of course, there's lots of stuff that's happening in the background, so it was asked to be enhanced. Well, not enhanced. It was asked to be pretty much to isolate some of the noises. You know what I mean? To get rid of some of them so we can actually hear what was actually happening or what was being said that day. And it came with a transcript. So let me just make sure that the playback speed is decent. There we go. And put it on 1.25. Why not? Well, no. Let's do 130. All right. And let me make sure it's visible for everybody to see. Okay, it's not going to do that for me. Give me 1 second. All right, let me share this screen. All right, we're going to get into it. Let's hear what Nancy has to say. All right, there we go.
There's going to be blood, so much blood. Another death threat says, don't go outside. How can anybody do their jobs when they're getting death threats? Not only that, we understand this case is headed to a grand jury. We also learned tonight that the state's autopsy is complete, but is being kept secret. Isn't an autopsy a public document? Why is it being kept hidden from us, the public? What is in that autopsy, the first autopsy of Nolan Wells? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
The young lady, Katie, that he was hanging out with, I saw a text message from her alluding to the fact that she never saw him get on that boat at all. They could have been saying, don't die, or is it dead, referring to the bilge pump. Somebody would have seen something if there was a dramatic commotion like this occurring on that boat.
I hope Nolan Wells died by accident. I'm not shutting down our Crime Stories investigation until I know.
Just want to hold on. Let me make this regular speed real quick. I'm gonna put it back on regular just for the transcript portion and for the audio portion. I know we went over this before, but they're going to get a little bit more technical in the actual process and what they did, because of course, you know, and this is another unfortunate aspect of high profile cases like this, you know, when people do come out, you know, with information more on an expert level, they are hit with the scrutiny. They are hit with the, you know, people are challenging their credentials, challenging their character, challenging their intentions, challenging their actual expertise. And it's really unfortunate, you know, because we need as many people as we can who are qualified, who have different skills, who can help with this situation as possible. All right. Because there's so many variables that need to be taken into consideration. I mean, this wasn't just, you know, at a house party type of situation. You know, this is water. So, you know, where a whole bunch of boats were. So when it comes to actual physical, tangible evidence, we can't really, I'm not even sure if that's reliable. I don't even know if the boat in question has been looked at, or if it's been confiscated, if it's been, you know, examined at all, especially since the emergency call said that there was some type of malfunction to the boat, and that was roughly around 3:00 p.m. that day on the 4th of July. And also it was roughly around the same time where Nolan was last seen by people that he was with, right? So let me go ahead, like I said, and just do it justice just for the audio part. Let me make sure the speed is back to normal. And you guys tell me what you think. Let me make sure I mute back up.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can you all please come? We have a membership. Shut up! Shut the f*** up! What'd you say?
You know, if that sound is real, there's no getting away from that. And all this business about there's no connection. Well, I listened to a good 40 seconds of SEATOW, SEA, second word TOW on hold, listen to their music. There was plenty good connection. But before I can even get to the death threats of blood, so much blood everywhere, and don't step outside, and more, before I can even get to the grand jury, before I can get to the autopsy that's being kept hidden from us, I want you to meet someone very important, critical to this investigation. Her name, Janetta Brantley. Miss Brantley is the audio engineer who enhanced the 911 call, the SEATOW call, in the Nolan Wells case.
So this is another example of an individual who came through with her expertise that really, has been, I don't think anybody is going to forget who this woman is and what she's done for this case. You know what I mean? In terms of just cleaning up the audio, providing some type of clarity, that went with the actual moment, you know what I mean? Or surrounding that time where things really popped off, but unfortunately, her expertise, what she's done in terms of providing for this case, has been attacked. She has been doxxed, prior mugshots released and such, and things like that, to really try to discredit this woman. All right. And like I said, this is something that we're probably going to see, because the case is just, and I don't even know how people can be so divided on this situation. The facts are the facts. There was a group of people that set out together, and one of them did not come back. There's conflicting stories of he got back on the boat with his friends, according to Katie, and according to the friends, he stayed on the island with Katie. It's too much going on. But regardless, I'm pretty sure that anybody with a heart that's listening, anybody who has younger people in their life, anybody who's a parent, can understand that that shouldn't even be important in terms of revealing the past of a person who is an audio engineer assisting with this case, providing clarity instead of confusion. You understand what I'm saying? But unfortunately, people will respond the way that in a lot of ways is very illogical, just very emotion based, emotion driven. And I get it. Like I said, it's frustrating to have to wait. But we're just average citizens. Can you imagine how the Wells family feels? They feel worse, So let's just, like I said, we need to stop throwing monkey wrenches into this situation, because every time that somebody involves themselves in a harmful or destructive way when it comes to this case, it's going to take us that much longer to get to the actual truth. All right. So let's hear from Janetta here exactly what has happened, and also she's going to walk you guys through her process of how she actually cleaned up this audio. All right.
So everybody claiming some ding dong on YouTube did it, or somebody on Insta or TikTok did it. No, she did it. I've spoken to her. I've read her statement. I want you to judge her credibility. Credibility is normally the sole province of a jury, and tonight you serve in that function. Miss Brantley, I'm sure that you're getting all sorts of abuse, threats, and so forth. It's a cacophony that seemingly won't cease. That said, thank you for being with us tonight. Explain to me where you got the audio, how you got the audio, and what, if anything, you did to enhance the audio.
First and foremost, I basically downloaded it off of YouTube from WLOX News's YouTube site. And when I downloaded it, I ripped it off of YouTube. That's the terminology that we use when we take something off of YouTube. But when I ripped it off of YouTube, Pause. And I pulled it in.
Pause, please. Objection. Miss Brantley, isn't it true that the audio you got was taken directly by XLO from MDMR, correct? The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Okay, please continue.
And shouts out to Nancy Grace. Shouts out to everybody that's in the building right now. Hope that y'all are enjoying the update and just the coverage. We can go over this together. But yes, this was a great interview for sure, Mr. DJ Music. But see, I'm so glad that Nancy is as thorough as she is, because when the words enhanced audio was introduced to the public, right? In terms of a technique, in terms of an extra step that was added into the investigation. For some reason, some people automatically thought fraudulent, thought fake, thought embellished, right? When enhanced is just that, right? Because certain, like I said, there's so many layers of sounds sometimes. And if you guys have ever recorded music or anything like that, like a person across the room can't pour a glass of water. You know what I'm saying? Because that microphone is going to pick that shit up. You understand what I'm saying? Enhancing just means bringing out certain sounds that are already existing. It does not indicate or even imply that sounds were added or words were added. Nothing was added. You know what I mean? Besides volume. And I think when I'm horrible with the terminology, she's gonna get into it, things like EQ, gain, things like that. So it's similar, like I said, to the whole recording process. And the sound needs to be cleaned up so it can be nice and crisp and clear. That's the difference between like modern music and, let's say, old town, like Motown, you know what I mean, where you hear a little bit more static and things like that. If they remaster that, right? See, in things like music and movies, they remaster, but it's the same thing, it's just taking what is already there in essence. Yep. Just isolated the sounds, exactly, because we don't need to hear the water splashing. We don't need to hear that. We need to hear what they were saying. All right. But we're going to definitely get back into it. She's going to actually show us what she did. She's going to act, and she's going to explain it to you as well. So we're going to continue on with the Nancy Grace review. And this is the actual audio engineer that cleaned up and enhanced the sound, the transcript from the boat emergency phone call that was made by Nolan Wells' friends.
Miss Brantley.
So when I downloaded it from YouTube, I pulled it into my DAW, which is Logic Pro X. That's my DAW of choice. When I first listened to it, I realized that it was like a dual mono recording, which most, most phone services or operators utilize when they're recording conversations. And so it was already split between the caller, the dispatch, and the callers in the background. And so that's what made it easy for me to isolate it without having to do much to it. So that isolation, when I separated the left channel from the right channel, that just made me be able to really focus on everything that was on the call. And then what I was hearing was I honestly could not believe what I was hearing.
Miss Janetta Brantley, isn't it true this is the same audio that was released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources?
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Let's listen to it one more time.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership. Hey, up! Shut the f*** up! What'd you say? It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. We're going down now. I don't know the phone number. It's either. I think it's. Try that. Everybody was on this phone. I know we have a membership, guaranteed. I don't have the tag on here. It got ripped off. What? No, we do not need that. Let me go look. Hey, jump in and pull the plug while you're going. Take it out of gear. Hello. Take it out of gear. Okay, what's going on? What's up? Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our village pump stopped working. We're sinking.
This is her actually going through the process. So let's take a look at this.
Can y'all please come? We have a membership. Shut the hell up! Shut the up! Damn it, Bart. Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our village pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership. Shut the hell up! Shut the up! Damn it, Bart. Damn it, Bart. Damn it, Bart.
Doctor.
Back to Janetta Brantley joining us tonight, and she shows herself in that video showing what she is doing. What does adding EQ mean, Miss Brantley?
Adding EQ is basically selecting a certain frequency of the actual sound and either deleting or removing a certain noise, something that's problematic to the ear, deleting that or boosting that. That's literally all EQing is.
What was your process, Janetta? Because I was sitting researching. It was early in the morning, like 5:45 a.m. several days ago, and I was researching the Nolan Wells case, and I saw the transcript as it was being played. And my husband was also up. He said, "What's wrong?" I'm like, if this is real, this changes everything. It changes everything. Because up until that point, it seemed as if Nolan's death could very well have been an accident. If this is real, it changes everything. It's seismic. What was your reaction when you heard these words, Janetta Brantley?
She said a mouthful right there. Seriously, I mean, this was such a development, in the case, and thankfully it happened very early on, so we have kind of something to springboard off of. You know what I mean? Because the damage control started pretty fast. When with Officer Tatum having the boys, the friends, one at a time being interviewed, so they can give their side of events and things like that. I'm very, very glad that this came out early in the investigation, because you can say what you want, but we heard the emergency call, so now you're going to have to explain that. You might have to walk some shit back. You'll walk it back down. You understand what I'm saying? Because they probably thought that they were getting ahead of it. They probably forgot all about the phone call, because a part of my other research as well was that even though the phone call was made, the rescue service, the actual company that the membership and all that stuff, think about AAA for boats, right? They never, the call was canceled. All right. So boat rescue never actually encountered this vessel where Nolan and his friends were. Independent, a different person helped him with actually towing their boat along to a different area for the water that ended up being, collected in there to be drained and things like that. So I'm very, very glad that this was added early into the archives of evidence, because y'all got some explaining to do. Seriously, it's not adding up. It's not making any sense. Exactly. I paid attention to that too as well, Mr. DJ Music. I was like, why would she say that? But again, you know, for the average person, you know, who is just watching and does not know the things that you or Drobonot or any other engineer or producer knows, it's going to sound, I mean, she can explain the process until the cows come home. But to the average listener, they're still not going to understand exactly what she did. You know, actually showing her process and things like that, it helped a lot. And shouts out to this sister, you know what I'm saying? So, because regardless, that's what people want to do when it comes to, you know, these types of cases, these types of situations, and then they want to intimidate you. They want to expose you. They want the world to know who you used to be 20 years ago. It doesn't take away from who you are right now and the skills that you have developed and expertise that you can provide to this particular situation. But it's all just for distraction. So shouts out to the sister for not backing down. You know what I mean? It's obvious that she stands with conviction and confidence with her abilities and with her skills. And she heard what she heard. All right. They're going to actually do another version of this as well to let somebody else. I mean, this will be interesting. I actually would be very interested just for somebody in our space to go to the actual website that the original audio was on and try it yourself. Enhance that audio, play around with it and see what you find. If you come up with the same things that was found by Ms. Brantley or not, that would be interesting to see. You know, because at least you got something to compare and contrast it to, since, you know, the angle that they want to take it is that enhance means fabricated or something was added to the situation, and that's not what enhanced means. Shouts out to Dawn in the building. Good to see you, hon. Just catching up and staying current on this Nolan Wells case. You guys, please make sure, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that thumbs up. If you're on the vertical side, double tap the screen. It does the same thing. Helps out the channel so much. And shouts out to all the new subscribers. Let me see here. All right, let me just make sure I mute back up and we'll continue.
I think at my core, I was in disbelief. I wasn't cleaning it or enhancing it to specifically look for or identify a crime or even point the fingers at anybody. I believe I wanted it to be an accident. I think a lot of us wanted it to be an accident. So when I heard those things, when I heard Damn It Bart, that name stood out to me because I hadn't even heard that name before. As I was listening to certain things that stood out to me, I was in disbelief because, again, I'm just an audio engineer. I'm not an investigator, a detective, or anything like that. So when I heard a name that I wasn't familiar with, it stood out to me. And that alone made me want to hear what was immediately said after Damn It Bart. And so that's why in that process where Damn It Bart came in loud and clear to me, I decided to go over to the next part to hear what the rest of that statement was, which is where you saw me actually create a loop over that part, split that part, and then add a gain, which the gain is boosting the volume overall. And that's pretty much what you saw me do in that actual video. And so to hear, you know, Damn It Bart, Nolan's really dead now, that I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
My reaction too, Janetta, because when I first heard it, I thought this has got to be doctored. This can't be real. Don't move. Straight out to veteran trial lawyer Franz Borghardt, a veteran trial lawyer joining us out of the Baton Rouge jurisdiction at Borghardt's law firm. Franz, take off your defense hat just one moment. I have introduced wiretaps many times at trials, which are very hard to get, by the way. And I've never had one that I believed was doctored at the time because they were taken by law enforcement. This is from a completely independent source with no dog in the fight, no skin in the game. It's from Dispatch at CETO. And if this is real, this blows the case wide up. Now, you saw Janetta Brantley. You've
I really don't like the fact that she keeps on saying if this is real, and then confirming it, the source where it actually came from. But all right, Nancy. Drogonaut says the good thing about the CTO file is that the dispatcher's voice was on the left channel and the caller's voice was in background was on the right channel. That, you know what? That's facts, because being able, it probably made it that much easier to separate and isolate the conversation that was happening on the boat versus what the actual dispatcher was saying, and I hope that that is a normal way of them operating, even when it comes to 911 calls. I hope that that is the same type of like procedure or same type of steps or settings that they keep it on, because as we can see now, you never know if one of these, when you have recorded lines, and you work in areas or in certain positions that require recorded lines, you never know when that call or when that interaction is going to be important or when it's going to matter until you get a subpoena to come to court. Okay, I have to worry about the same thing when I was in the insurance industry. All right, you have to be very specific. You have to be and you have to document everything, because at any point in time a potential lawsuit can come when somebody feels they don't feel that things went their way, or they're unsatisfied with the results or with the findings, right? So I hope that in these situations, like in general, that when it comes to the emergency responder services, it doesn't matter if it's the CTO, it doesn't matter if it's regular 911. I hope that that is the way that they do it, because it makes the process, in just in case, that much easier.
heard her. I have no reason to disbelieve anything she's saying.
So if I'm prosecuting this, I'm worried that I need a witness in 2026 to exclude the possibility that it's either AI generated or doctored, just like you suggested. And I think that she's very credible, but I think we need to go one step further. The other concern I have, Nancy, is if the independent autopsy is showing inconclusive death results, now I really want to see the other autopsy to see, is there trauma to the body? Is there something that happened? These are the concerns I would have as a prosecutor.
Before we talk about obstructions such as allegedly lying or covering something up, you've already mentioned two distinct lines of inquiry. One is that the audio that Janetta Brantley enhanced innocently, I believe, had been already AI or doctored. Okay, let's follow that through to its logical conclusion. You just throw that out there like a stink bomb at the circle. You know what a circle meeting is, right? In the United Methodist Church, all the ladies have circle meetings. Okay. To suggest this was doctored before Janetta got it means it had to have been doctored or AI created by who? The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. No, don't just go, that doesn't work in court, Burkhartz. You can't just throw, that's like the Saab defense. Some other dude did it. What dude? What are you talking about? So you're saying AI doctored by who? If it's not Janetta, then who? She got it. The same sound that was released by the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. What? You think they doctored it?
There is nothing normal about this case. And if
that's not what I asked you. I'm asking you to explain your premise, and you're not doing it.
I said if I were a prosecutor, I would want to be able to establish with expert testimony that what we are listening to is real. And I would want a witness, because I'm telling you, with this case, with as viral as it's been, I'm not disagreeing that it's real. I'm saying I would want to be able to bolster that very credible woman's testimony, and she is very credible. I have no doubt that what we're listening to and what she did is credible. The issue is I don't know if she can go the distance to say,
okay, got it. She cannot testify as to whether MDMR had enhanced it or doctored it before it was released. But see, the problem is you would have to ask someone to believe a clerk or an official at the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources doctored this before they released it, to the extent that nobody could understand it until they enhanced it. That's a hell of a doctor job. Okay, so you did that. Then you got into the medical examiner findings. Okay, what was your theory on that? Very quickly.
Very quickly. If he's dead on the boat, how did he die? It should be conclusive. It shouldn't be inconclusive.
Join.
Nancy be on their ass, man. Like, hold on. Like, I need you to answer the question that I asked you, okay? Like, don't answer the question that you heard in your head or that you prefer to answer, that you're prepared to answer. I need you to answer the question that I asked. I likes her, man. Like, see? Everybody has their expertise. You know what I mean? And when those people are curated and picked and assembled together into a pseudo justice league, boy, I'm trying to tell you, like, that's when magic happens, seriously. So shouts out to all these people who have found a way to not let other people, whether it be public opinion or whoever, try to distract them or discourage them from doing something that, one, they're good at, two, they have a passion about. Okay, like that's half of the battle. You know what I'm saying? Finding somebody who would show up and do this shit for free. Okay, like that's what passion means. So and a lot of people are just more caught up, and even and I hate to say this, even when it comes to law enforcement and things like that, they're in there for the check. Okay, there is no passion. They don't even necessarily like what they do, and that's why they do it half-assed. When it's done half-assed, you know what I'm saying? Not accusing, this to be the general consensus when it comes to law enforcement or whatever. But there's too many people who don't care about what they do. They don't care. They're just showing up. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, to collect that check. And they're not taking into consideration, especially when you serve the public in any type of capacity, that you have a responsibility. We need the best. We need the bravest. We need the finest. We need the sharpest. We need all those people. We need those people who are low-key obsessed, all right? Because the public in general is depending on it. You know what I mean? To keep law and order, you know what I mean? Like, you got to show up and show out every single time, so you can give the people have something to believe in, whether it be, in the person in that individual district, town, if it goes bigger or whatever, when you actually give it all you got, like I said, and you go hard every time, it gives the people something to believe in. They're going to support you as police officers. They're not going to give you a hard time because they know that you're not on no fuck shit. You know what I'm saying? You actually there to serve and protect instead of get a check and go home. You know what I mean? There's a big difference. Shouts out to everybody. Like I said, man, Nancy is on this case, and I'm so glad that she is one of those people who is comfortable with her obsession and is comfortable with herself enough to cut people short. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we got to get down to the bottom of it. This is not just a lovely conversation that we're having. I don't want, you to answer whatever you're prepared to. I want you to answer the questions that I propose. Good job, Nancy. Let's keep going.
Right now, Joseph Scott Morgan, renowned death investigator, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University, with a premier criminal pro department and building, author of Blood Beneath My Feet, star of a hit series, Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan, and it goes on. Significant, over 10,000 death scenes under his belt. Joe Scott, follow up. I'm not arguing in Burkhart's.
It's another individual, we got to shouts out the morticians, the medical examiners, and all those people who who, like I said, have this interest in low-key obsession. I mean, this gentleman to the right of Nancy has done over 200 death simulations. So in certain cases where you're trying to find out how the hell did this happen, he's got to try to recreate the situation as best as possible. So it means looking at blood spatter, it's studying projectiles, it's studying angles and you know, just all different types of things. And of course, biology, anatomy, there's so many different areas that need to be looked at and kind of and explored, you know, when you're trying to find out how did this person pass away. And again, you got you got the public, not just the prosecutors in the state or whoever. You got the general public depending on you, you know, because a lot of people, they get very attached to these types of cases. They think about stuff like this for years afterwards. They save newspaper clippings, you know, they do a whole lot of stuff. It just depends, because like I said, a lot of people have unfortunately been in this type of situation or know somebody whose life was taken way too soon, and it haunts them, you know what I mean, to not know who, what, when, where, why, you know, things like that. It's very important. So like I said, shouts out to all these obsessed warriors. That's just what I call them. You know what I'm saying? That's the people who really, like I said, who give a damn and would do this type of work for little to nothing if they had to, because they just enjoy it so much. They get the satisfaction and they understand the importance. Shouts out to them.
Let's learn, if we can, from what he's saying. Jump.
Yeah, so whatever has been the causal factors here has got to marry up with what they were seeing at the scene, and perhaps the audio does fall into this, you know, these statements. And I think that probably from a medical legal perspective, that is the coroner and the medical examiner are going to want to be able to fully appreciate what is being said here from a timeline. This is absent the police's investigation. They're going to try to rule in or rule out what they're seeing presenting on Nolan's remains when they finally did receive them at the state medical examiner's office and that examination began. And this is going to be critical and key, you know, because the causal effects here are going to be critical. You know, we go back to these changes that the second autopsy referred to on the back of the head. Now, the doctor was not able to, at that point in time, even though he did do a thorough, what's referred to as a layered dissection here, he could not establish the causal effects here, because the injury or the insult that you see there, this presentation, is compromised by decomposition. So what did the state medical examiner see? My problem is here, Nancy, how was the body treated before or after the first autopsy and the body is transported up to DC? I have questions about this because they're talking about to the degree with which the body was decomposed. The doctor up in DC is seeing significant decomposition. We don't know what they saw in Mississippi, but I do know that you're only talking about what, and I'm ballparking here, please give me some grace, maybe 48 hours tops before the medical legal authorities have seen the body. So how far degraded is the body to compromise any of this? And this evidence is going to have to be borne out.
Yeah, so it just might be, like I said, by situations and circumstances like that, that is just going to make, those are the only types of things that should be making this case difficult, which is, you know, like how long it took for people to actually find Nolan. Like you said, the decomposition of the body, the longer that it's missing, you know, just makes it, if the cause of death isn't obvious, you know, it's just, it makes it that much more difficult to actually pinpoint something. And that's why I think another thing that's a little I definitely raised my eyebrow at is that Nolan was last seen on the northwestern part of Horn Island, and because that was the last part, or in the area that he was found, that's where the search party started. And he wasn't found until 2 days after, but in the same damn area, northwest part of the island. I don't understand how a search party could miss him on the first day if that's where he was found 2 days later. This situation is it's layered, you know what I'm saying? It's definitely more complicated than it seems. You know, this is going to take a while. It's going to take a while. I just hope that people don't move away from the area, you know what I mean, in the time that it takes to get these, you know, to gather the witnesses, to get the information together and to actually go to trial. That's what I'm hoping at this point. But the only things that should be made complicated is, you know, like I said, in this situation, finding the actual cause of death, because there was some time that passed before he was actually found. And if he was found in the water, that makes it even a little bit more interesting in terms of trying to determine, you know, time of death, you know, cause of it and all kinds of stuff, because, you know, the body is going to do what it's going to do underneath certain circumstances or in certain environments. So, you know, finding a body in the water is not going to be the same as if you found a body, let's say in a shallow grave. You know what I mean? It's not going to be the same. It's surrounded by water. There might be some bloating. There might be some, you know, disfiguring and things like that. And I don't want to get too graphic. It's just, this is one of my obsessions as well. I just don't have the heart for it. I don't have the stomach for it. I probably will become an alcoholic or something like that, just dealing with these types of situations, dealing with emergency room where a kid is, you know, is got to be worked on. Like, I don't know if I could do that, but I'm very interested in, like I said, anatomy, physiology, and I love me some crime shows. Okay. Like, hey, y'all gotta let me be, you know what I'm saying? Even if it's certain court cases and things like that. Like I said, I was obsessed with Ahmaud Arbery. I was obsessed with this whole Murdaugh trial that happened back in 2021, 2022, the double homicide by the father. I can't believe he unalived his son and his wife. I couldn't believe it. You know, but those things just, they interest me, and I'm not sure why. Like, I think, like I said, I think more about the person who's gone, and just, like I said, the least that I can do is listen to what happened to them. You know what I mean? To really honor them in a certain type of way, instead of just seeing them as another random person or a stranger. You know, like, this type of stuff can happen to anybody. You know, I have friends who were unalived and we still trying to figure, you know, still don't know who did it. You know, like, this stuff really, it bothers, you know, it stays with people. It stays with people. Yeah. Sorry, before I get I lose my train of thought and my focus, all right? Because we here to, like I said, just keep everybody updated and, you know, just engaged and informed as much as possible when it comes to this case. Drobonaut says, quote, in quotations, all right, a body typically takes 3 to 5 days to float to the surface after drowning, though this can range from 24 hours to a few weeks, allegedly. I mean, if that's what they're saying the cause is, which is drowning, okay. Because it's not like I've looked into that 100%, so I'm not going to be like, oh, that's cow. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I hope it don't take that damn long. But at the same time, when they have rescue parties and stuff like that, when they have to deal with bodies of water, there are divers and things like that are incorporated and added into a situation, because obviously it's not as simple as you just float to the top, right? So I can take that. I know I didn't either, but at the same time, it's not something that I actually looked into, so I'm not gonna try to debunk it. But like I said, it makes me think about the situations where, you know, individual, was last seen, in a body of water or whatever, and then they have to go search for him, and they have to bring in the divers. You know what I mean? So there must be a reason, or there must be some type of truth to it, in terms of how long it would take for it to actually surface. No, right. He Googled, that's why he put it in quotations and said allegedly afterwards. That's what most of us have to go to. I'm still trying to even see, I was Googling occipital bones and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. So what causes bruising, you know what I'm saying, to the back of the head? And they kept on trying to give me all this information about headaches and stuff like that, because that's a area in the back, I guess, in the back of the head, like if there's pressure put on, there's occipital nerves back there. So when you have a stress headache, it usually come, if you ever have a headache where it feels like the back of your head is tight, you know what I'm saying, like a rubber band or something like that, that's the occipital bone back there. But I mean, hey, that's all we have is, you know what? Let me stop, because I think my mom has a copy of Grey's Anatomy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the official manual in textbook that medical students use. So that would be interesting. Like I said, sometimes you learn about different trends, you learn about different things, and yeah, it's just like I said, it's something that sticks with you, especially if you know somebody who unfortunately, like I said, was unalived or something like that. So it kind of just is what it is. Let's keep going with the review. Appreciate it, Ola.
Not just with the physical findings that you see with the unaided eye, but also whatever's going on toxicologically.
I want you to take a careful look at this video we have obtained. Let's see it. Look how tightly everyone is packed in. There were hundreds of people out on Horn Island on July the 4th. What, nobody saw what happened to Nolan Wells? They all just left with him standing there stranded, waving his arms like Gilligan? That did not happen. Now that you're seeing this, what is an innocent explanation? I'm trying to figure that out. Joining me, and I'll circle back to you, Joe Scott, because I got a lot of questions regarding the way he could have died innocently and been left behind, and that sound being true. The sound that Janetta Brantley enhanced. Is there any innocent explanation? Is there a way, as my favorite judge often said, Luther Alverson, it is your duty to make all witnesses speak the truth and impugn perjury to no one. Is there a way that can be done? I don't know that it can. It seems to me that someone is lying.
Oh, somebody's definitely lying, goddamn. And yeah, Ola, that's pretty much what I said as well. Like, that's why the audio, the enhanced audio, it was perfect. It came out at the perfect time, because those boys had already started doing their interviews and everything before this hit. And don't quote me on that. I feel maybe it was around the same time, but I feel like the interviews are being done first, in sake of damage control. But now, like I said, now that we got this enhanced audio, y'all got some explaining to do, because this doesn't make any sense. Even if you are talking about the state of your vessel or whatever, usually people don't say, oh, it's dead, it died. Like, who uses vernacular like that when they're talking about a piece of equipment? You know what I mean? Unless it's maybe like, oh, your battery died in your car. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, that's possible, but that's not usual terminology that people use when experiencing some type of mechanical error or mechanical issue. That's usually that's not what they be saying. You know what I'm saying? So, and I hate to say this, but it was my white friends, you know what I mean, who taught me about things like damage control and leverage. I didn't, I mean, of course, it's like once you get kind of privy to it, and like, oh, okay, that's what that is. Like, okay, I've seen it before, but at the same time, it was just too quick. You didn't go to the funeral, you know what I mean? You're getting death threats and this, that, and the third, but you have no problem being on a major platform like Officer Tatum's. That's a little sus to me. That's really sus to me. If you guys looking at the screen right now, this is another part that just blows my mind, because that's why I had to start the show the way that I did, because this is his case, okay? Him and his family are like I said, he's gone, and his parents are just trying to find answers and are being harassed, intimidated, threatened, looked at in a subpar way, as if they're not also victims of this situation. No one has been charged. No official suspects have been named in the death of Nolan Wells, but the first arrests, you know what I mean, and charges that were brought on involving or attached to this case had nothing to do with the actual perpetrators or suspects. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? You would have thought that the first, if people were going to be charged, you know what I mean, in connection to Nolan Wells, it would have been somebody who seen him last, you know, who was around him, tied to some type of physical evidence. Like I said, on that emergency phone call saying all that suspect shit. That's usually, you know, one of them people. That's usually who I would, if I had to guess, all right, that's some of the people that would be the first ones to be hit with a charge or, you know, anything like that. But no, we've got two vigilantes, you know what I'm saying, who, because they done figured it out. Like I said, the guy Warren, his mama is a judge in Mississippi, and I'm still, hold on, let me double check really quick, because I need to know where she's located in terms of where she actually, or her jurisdiction is, or where she what she covers in terms of like what territory, what area. Because I would hate to think that she was a judge appointed to the whole situation. Okay, I really would hate to think that, because, like, again, huge conflict of motherfucking interest. All right, you can't have the judge can't be, you know what I'm saying, okay, you got a case and the judge's son is potentially involved or was one of the last people that saw this young man before his death. Come on now, give me a second. Oh, I hate when I do this. Give me a second. Judge Cole. Damn, what was her first name? Give me 1 second, y'all. Going through my research. You know what? They did say something about a lie detector, Ola. Let me let this video play. I'm gonna turn get the playback speed up a little bit more, and while I look and try to see exactly where this judge presides. Warren's mama. These folks be connected. They be connected. All right.
But who? Joining me now, Tezlyn Figaro, social justice, political commentator, host of the Tezlyn Figaro podcast. Ms. Figaro, thank you for being with us. I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, that's what the family is saying. They don't believe he died by accident. That's the point. That's the reason why Nolan Wells' mom is saying, I don't believe this. I don't believe he died by accident before we had the audio. The audio simply confirms that there are additional questions that needs to be asked. It wasn't just one thing they said in the audio. They said Nolan repeatedly in the audio. They said check his chest in the audio. They said, is he dead in the audio? And also notice this, Nancy. Did you notice that the operator also said, is anybody breathing? Who says that? What operator says who all is breathing on the boat? So is this all the audio, Nancy? Is there more audio? That's my question.
I want to look specifically, Teslin, at what was said. At one point, we think, you killed him? He's already dead. He's already dead. Is he dead? Yeah. Nolan, OMG, wake up. And as Janetta stated, then she hears a completely different name, Bart. Now, we also hear, and I'm very curious, the phrase, no. Teslin Figaro, was that a nickname of Nolan Wells?
I cannot confirm if that's a nickname of his or not. But what I do know is we heard Nolan. What I do know is we heard check his chest. What I do know is that we said, is he dead? What we do know is we heard screams. There's folks out there suggesting that perhaps they were talking to a seagull or perhaps talking to some random bird that was flying around that's called no. There were folks out there that suggested, well, maybe they were talking about the boat. Come on, we got to knock this off, Nancy. We heard what we heard. And so we would have put this before a jury.
Also, we hear, damn it, Bart, No-No's really dead. Damn it, Bart, No-No's really dead. Repeating it over and over and over. According to reports, his nickname, one of them, is No-No. Back to Teslin Figaro. What is Nolan's mother's theory about what happened in light of these tapes?
Before we even had the tapes, her theory is, I told my son, I've raised my son just like I've raised my 19-year-old the same way, Nancy, like I'm sure you raise your children. Come back with the people you went with. Her theory has always been that he is a fantastic swimmer, that he is an athlete. Her theory has always been that he did not drown. Her theory has always been that there's something wrong with this picture. Her theory has always been that the fact that, he's left his phone and left his keys. Her theory has also always been that he did not just go off with some random stranger and say, guys, don't worry about it. Just leave me on an island. Her theory is the same thing before this audio. This audio only confirms what this mother already knew.
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. If you are a homeowner, you probably thought, should I call American Financing to refinance and pay off this debt? Or just go on access 03 American Finance. This case from the beginning, Susan Hendricks, we all know that everyone
All right, so I'm finding conflicting stuff at the moment. Some of these headlines say that Ashley Cole, she is the mom, and some of these say that she is the stepmom. So I'm not sure 100%, but wow. I mean, they even got listed what courtroom Shawty is assigned to. Like, I ain't finna release all that stuff, but she is a judge in the 16th Chancery Court, District of Mississippi. She and that includes George, Greene, and Jackson counties. She before being elected to the bench in 2022, she handled family law matters in her own private practice. So she had how you come out of, okay, never mind, let me be quiet, because having a private practice like that's not usually the first step that a new lawyer would take. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to get your feet wet working for somebody, or at least being a prosecutor, working in the prosecutor's office, similar to like people who are trying to be in the medical field. They not just gonna give you a private practice. You're gonna have to start in the ER, okay, and deal with everything. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of everything, but that's neither here nor there. Might have to pay attention to that. All right, she was a staff attorney for the district court that she is now a judge at, and she received her bachelor's in American history from the University of Alabama in 2009. Then completed a JD, I guess a junior degree. I don't know what a JD means, at the University of Mississippi School of Law. While a law student Cole served as a law clerk at Dogan and Wilkinson. But yeah, they got her whole courtroom assignment and everything. I'm like, damn, no wonder. Oh my goodness, with the clerk phone number and fax. No wonder they was able to call the office and call the courtroom and be able to threaten the whole spot. I mean, the shit is public record. Damn, that's crazy. That's crazy. And it's like a little bio. It's like a little, little synopsis. It's like a Wikipedia for professionals here. We got state court. Okay, wow. Oh, let me bookmark this then, because I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna need this later. All right, give me a second, y'all. I'm just trying to save this before it gets lost. All right. Had to save that. Boop. All right, you guys, let's keep going with the review.
In our country is innocent until proven guilty. And regardless of how you or I or anybody else feels, that includes the young men on the boat with Nolan Wells. We have a lot of questions that have to be answered. Is this sound real? Has it been enhanced? Who enhanced it? Was it AI or doctored before Janetta Brantley pumped it up so we can hear it? I want you to hear another version.
You can see that I have the CETO channel completely muted, so we're only listening to the callers. Then I go through and simply raise the...
It's like I said, this is what I'm saying. This is somebody totally different, somebody totally separate, who is doing their own audio enhance of the same audio or the same file that Miss Janetta Brantley got hers from. That's what I'm saying. If there's anybody who is auto engineers out there, go grab it and see if you can clean it up and if you find anything different, or what ends up coming out is pretty much the same. All right, but this is another person who is showing their process and enhancing and cleaning up the same video. All right.
The volume of all of the chatter we hear at the beginning of the call.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
Susan, that was enhanced by my producer, Sydney. I know her like that. I asked her, enhance it the best you can. She, again, has no interest in the outcome of this case. She pulls up, quote, want me to cover him up? I mean, Susan, weigh in.
And that's crazy because from the first the first video or whatever that was presented, I didn't hear the should we cover him up. I didn't hear. Like I said, that's what having different people do it would be interesting, like I said, just to see what would be found or what would be uncovered, you know what I mean? Because I don't remember hearing everything that we're hearing right now in the first one. But let's keep going.
I was listening to the enhanced version, both of them now, not doctored, by the way. There's a big difference there. Have you ever heard, Nancy, on Instagram where you listen to two things and your mind goes to what you're thinking of, like green car or moon boat? What are we really hearing? I believe that something nefarious did happen. Where I think the answers will be, again, this is my opinion, but I believe something happened there and we're not hearing the full story. And you pointing out, Nancy, how crowded that area was. So let's say what people are claiming, that it was an accidental drowning. No one saw. Look here at the crowd. Nobody saw what happened. And all of us have our phones on us all the time. No one recorded this. I think the answers are in the timeline and also the autopsy, when we will hear answers there.
You're seeing video from the Officer Tatum show, and I don't know what they were trying to show with it, but how can someone be dead and floating in the water and nobody notice? which leads me to, Susan Hendricks, the fact that we have learned tonight that the state's autopsy is complete, but it's being kept secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Being held for the grand jury to look into that. And the fact, as you brought up, Nancy, earlier, that part of his throat was missing, will that be key? There's so many questions around this, but right, it's a public record, but
Bruh, and this is what I'm talking about. Hold on, give me 1 second, man. Like, okay, all right, so when they do the diagram, hold on. Okay, so like what we're looking at right now, right? This diagram, side view and all that stuff. Is this how they found him? When they found him, they found no throat? Or are they saying after brought to the medical examiner, then the throat was removed? Which one was it? Was he found with no throat in the water? Somebody else had said this earlier. Damn, where'd it go? Somebody said something about the condition of him when he was found. There he goes. Where's the interview of the coroner explaining why they mangled that boy body and destroyed? Fine, child. That's what I'm saying. Like, Kendrick Johnson. That's another case that I was obsessed with, bro. Like, okay, the medical exam. Okay, thank you. Because I was just like, wait, cotton picking minute. You know what I'm saying? Because if he went in there, or when he was discovered, like, was his throat, like, that was the part that was confusing to me. All right, appreciate the clarification. But it just, like I said, I don't know, it reminds me of Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? That poor boy, you know, who was found rolled up in that gym mat in South Georgia, had his body was stuffed with newspaper. And folks acting like they don't know. I don't know where the organs went. Like, what? Like, what is you talking about? You don't know what happened to the organs. And even once the organs are removed from the body, you know what I mean? They're examined or whatever, in one way or another. They might have to look at, you know, the contents of the stomach, whatever. Usually what happens is they put that organ back inside like a plastic bag, and they put the plastic bag back inside the body before they close it back up. All right, they don't stuff it with sawdust, motherfucking newspaper, none of that stuff. They're not supposed to anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're supposed to examine the inside of the body, try to, you know, find out, is this a heart attack? Is this a, you know, was there an obstruction in the stomach? Like, what happened? Were you poisoned? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happened? They need to look at the individual organs, which in this situation, the throat and the lungs would be extremely important, because if the theory is that he drowned, then there would be water in his lungs. All right. If he was deceased and then he was thrown into the water, obviously, since he's no longer breathing, there would be no water in his lungs. Aha. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got to pay attention. You got to pay attention. What's going on, Ebony? Welcome to the show. Yes, we be over here doing my thing. You actually hear me talk and spit my shit, you know what I'm saying, when I'm over here on my channel. But shouts out to everybody. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, and that's what a lot of this, I mean, in terms of just influence, because it is to manipulate the masses. As a former journalism student, I learned very early. I was like, oh, this shit ain't about the truth at all, huh? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about the truth at all. You know, if the editor or whoever owns the publication, if they don't want a story to be ran, if they're friends with a person who is or who's in the headlines and head is on the fucking chopping block, they will try to suppress that stuff. Like, it happens all the time, and it really disheartened me. It really disappointed me, because, like, I admire people like, Nancy Grays, the Connie Chungs, the Barbara Walters, the Ed Bradleys, you know what I'm saying? Like the people who actually do these exposés, the Lester Holtz, they ask those tough questions. They put themselves in certain areas or situations just so they can show a piece of what another part of the world is about, you know what I'm saying, or what it's like. And that's what really intrigued me, like telling stories, you know what I mean? Like being able to tell somebody else's story, like, because there's so many things that happen, and good, bad, or indifferent, but I like to, I'm interested in people like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially if you overcame something, or even if you're going through something rough, like I ask good questions, all right? Like I ask good questions, all right? But that's really like what my obsession is, you know what I'm saying? That's something that I probably would, I kind of am. I'm kind of doing it for free, but if you guys want to support the channel, if you would like to support the show and the journalism and keep these conversations going, please support the channel. But to be honest, this is something that I would do, and I do for little to nothing, you know what I'm saying? And I take my time to look over and over, and I watch so many different interviews. I try to pay attention to key points and all that type of stuff, because I really am interested in these people's stories, especially for the ones who are taken too soon, taken by the hands of somebody else. Yeah, let's try to get to the bottom of it, and if I can help, I damn sure will. But that's just me. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get back to the review. Course, fair use in it. Thanks for everybody hitting the like button, sharing it out, and subscribing. I appreciate y'all. Welcome to the community. To all the new subscribers, just make sure that you keep your notifications on so you know each and every time that I go live. All right, let's get it.
We're not hearing about it. I guess they're waiting for the grand jury to show them that first.
Joe Scott Morgan, death investigator. I've never known an autopsy report not to be a public record unless they're claiming ongoing investigation.
Yeah.
Now, in the D4VD David Anthony Burke case, the LAPD demanded the medical examiner keep it secret because the medical examiner's office allegedly was leaking information, possibly for money. Don't know that yet, but I will. How common is that the medical examiner is ordered not to release the autopsy? Why is the autopsy being kept secret?
Because it's continued investigation. They're going to go to grand jury with this. I can tell you that. I'll bet you dollars to donuts if that's the case. You see it with, we saw it with Idaho 4, right? We didn't have it there. We don't have it with Charlie Kirk. That's an ongoing event. This is being investigated. And, the point of contact here is an interesting situation here, because you have the state medical examiner, but you also have a county coroner. The state medical examiner provides a service to the county coroner. The coroner is an elected official. He does not do these autopsies. And so the coroner is going to be the gatekeeper relative to any kind of document. But with that said, under state statute, the DA, the prosecutor, they can say, look, you're going to hold off on releasing this report. So it's being held at this point in time. Now, the reports that we're hearing are saying that it is complete. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you have a complete autopsy report, that means they've got tox, they've probably got histology, which is going to be the tissue studies, and they actually have the anatomical autopsy report that has been completed. That's what, I think it was ABC that was reporting that. I can't validate that, but that's what is being leaked out at this point in time. So they have this report. I think the question is, and this goes back to you, my friend, is that if this is going to be a grand jury thing, when is it going? And when is the medical examiner going to be called and summoned to speak to this? That's what everybody's going to be hanging on, in my opinion.
Hold on. Joe Scott, you mentioned the tox report. That's the blood panel done. Was he drinking? Was he using drugs? A lot has been made.
Or had he been given something?
Witnesses stating no one was drunk. Okay. Does that really change anything? Does that change anything? Unless he died of acute alcohol poisoning. Because I guarantee you, ain't anybody on that boat that's afraid of a cocktail. Okay? So if he...
Tell him, Nancy. She said, I don't think that there was anybody on that boat that was shy of a cocktail. I'm trying to tell you, boy, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, man, but these types of, appreciate that, Riaz. because these types of situations, in environments, like I said, the Panama cities, the spring breaks in Cancun and blah, blah, blah. I don't understand how all this underage drinking be happening, but damn sure they don't be scared of no type of cocktails. One thing is, and I've never really been in this type of situation because I've never lived in a boating type of community before. But I mean, where's the food? You know what I'm saying? Like, I bet you there's probably 2 or 3 18 packs or whatever, you know what I mean, on each and every one of those boats, but there ain't no food. You know what I'm saying? Like, what else are you finna do all day besides get drunk, jump into the water to cool down, come back out, do it all over again? Even when you guys, if you pay attention to this video that they're kind of they're going to repeat it a couple of times. Just watch. You're going to see young people or individuals from one boat handing beers over to people in another boat, just sharing, more the merrier. You know what I'm saying? We got a plenty. So yeah, it was strange to be like, he was heavily drinking and this, that, and the third. I think that was just the environment and the culture. Everybody was doing the same thing. But if there's no toxicology report and everything is being like, what are we talking about? It's just speculation. We can go off of the pictures that were, I guess, submitted or found on the boys, on his friends' phones and stuff like that. But even in those situations, like, that doesn't really say much. It doesn't say what they think. It's not hitting the way that they want it to, and I know that's like the major thing that people like to do, especially in these types of situations, is they like to create that cloud of doubt, you know what I mean, of how unstable or how compromised the victim was. It's a way of victim blaming and shaming, even if he was drinking out there. Are you telling me that, that unless he has, like, to the point where he has alcohol poisoning or something like that, it still wouldn't matter? You know what I'm saying? Like, the only way that it would matter is, like, if there was some type of reckless horseplay or some type of accident, he slipped and fell, hit his head, something like that. But still, you probably would just get knocked out. And even if that was the situation, they would be able to tell that it was caused by some type of fracture in the skull. They said they found no fracture in the skull area. You know what I mean? Everything in terms of the redness that was back there on the back of his head was through layers of his tissue. It wasn't deep enough to actually, like I said, there was no internal bleeding. There was no fracture of the skull. So that's some information that has been shared. But yeah, wasn't nobody scared of no damn cocktail. So, or Tatum saying or trying to insinuate or say that cocaine was in his system. If there's no toxicology report, like, you were being beyond reckless and irresponsible by even putting something like that out into the atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? Ola, I did want to I feel you on this one. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, in certain situations, they be open and closed type of cases. You know what I mean? They move a lot faster. They have some urgency. Sometimes when they pussyfoot, excuse my language, but that's an old school term, they drag their ass or, they feet or whatever. I could see how people, because we've already got 2 arrests, based off of the civilian or from the civilian side. But just, I guess, creating that environment for civil unrest. I can see where you're coming from in that situation. You sound like you like conspiracy theories like me, because I know this stuff is nothing is as easy and simple as it sounds. You know what I'm saying? Because the people who came up with this game, you know what I'm saying, that they designed it in order for them to win and everybody else to lose. So you got to remember the laws and bylines and this, that, and the thirds. So nothing, as in my opinion, is as simple as it seems. But let's continue. Y'all pay attention, like I said, of all the people who are passing out and handing out beer cans and things like that. Just pay attention. So it wasn't just Nolan.
He was drinking. What difference does that make in whether he was killed or whether he died of an accident, Joe Scott?
Well, listen, Nancy, I know you're a teetotaler, but let me tell you something. The drunker you get, the more alcohol you take on board, it lessens your ability to defend yourself. It lessens your ability to make good decisions. And so we see this played out all the time in the medical legal world. And that's going to be the measure here, I think, relative to tox. Everybody wants to see the toxicology because that's going to give us an idea chemically what is in this young man's system. Was he able to do for himself at that point in time? And that's another problem that arises here.
It's a double-edged sword, Joe Scott.
You
can argue rightly he was drunk and could not defend himself against an attack. Right. You could also argue he was drunk and hit his head, and then they go, "Oh my stars, he's dead." Yep. But wouldn't that have shown up in the autopsy if he died by a blow to the head, be it accidental or nefarious? Wouldn't that have shown up?
Exactly. And even so, if that was what had happened, right? If what had happened was he got drunk, fell out the bed, bumped his head, couldn't get up in the morning, whatever the case might be. If that happened in your friend's presence, they're even more suspect because they didn't do anything about it. And he was still found in the water 2 days after being reported missing. So even if he did fall and bump his head or whatever, how'd he get in the water, shawty? Again, y'all got some explaining to do. Y'all didn't think this shit through because you was drunk as well. Okay? I'm trying not to get upset, but it's just starting to be like, you know, like I said, for my parents out there, you know what I'm saying? Or even people who have ever had to babysit or watch nieces and nephews and things like that. Kids are horrible liars. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all know that more than, you know, it's needless to say. They're horrible fucking liars, right? And it's frustrating. I don't know about y'all, but it's frustrating when I get lied to by a child and they just sound adamant, like, oh no, like, I'm placing it together. I'm putting the puzzle together in my head, and nothing that you're saying is making sense. I know that you're lying. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to get frustrated, but again, these are children. You know what I mean? Like, they're adults. They're at least 18. I believe Bart is 21, which is probably where the alcohol came from. And I wonder if any charges are going to be brought if that's the case, because buying alcohol for a minor is still a crime, my nigga. Like, Bart, you feel what I'm saying? So if you knew everybody else was 18, 19, and you 21, you're caught red-handed, you know what I'm saying, by contributing to the inebriation of these kids. Period. So that's at least one charge right there. I don't know about y'all, but we trying to figure out exactly what they can be charged, of course, besides the obvious, right? Some type of well, depending on, you know, but we can go for the red rum, you know what I'm saying? Might be some manslaughter. I don't know. I have to, as this situation unfolds, I'm curious of what the differences are specifically anyway. So we'll go over some of that too, as, like I said, as the case kind of unfolds. But shoot, like I said, buying and supplying alcohol to minors definitely is one of the charges. So click clack, let's stack them up, y'all. Let's stack them up.
Yeah, and keep in mind the second physician that did the autopsy, who, by the way, is highly respected, the former chief medical examiner for D.C., that was retained by the family. He didn't see any evidence of fractures. All right. Now, that doesn't mean that there wasn't a concussive event. I'm talking about being hit in the head, and you can have stuff that's contained within the cranial vault that might not be presenting. But again, back to what I said earlier, I find it very interesting that this doctor is commenting on the state of the decomposition when he sees the body. And that's problematic. It's very problematic when you're trying to make an assessment. You're already absent the organs of the neck. You're absent intact lungs. And, you know, because the specter of drowning is on the table as well. So if you want to make a thorough scientific assessment, he's kind of handcuffed, isn't he, at this point? And again, going back to this idea, how long did it take them to get his body to DC, and why was it in such a state of decomposition when it arrived?
Hi guys, Nancy Grace here. Please join us on Crime Stories and stream it first on Fox 1. When breaking crime news develops, we investigate it and bring it to you. Bombshell updates. To gavel coverage with real-time analysis. Speaking of toxicology results, number one, they don't take that long unless you want them to. Number two, there is doubt. If he died by accident, having consumed a lot of alcohol, was there a cover-up? Or did he die from a nefarious act? So the alcohol intake could cut either way, Franz.
I think you're spot on. I think that the reasonable doubt, if someone gets arrested and accused of this crime, is going to be if the toxicology shows a high DAC in the absence of anything else. What you yourself said, could it have been foul play where he couldn't defend himself, or foul play in so much as he got injured because he was quote unquote drunk? That remains to be seen. But I don't discount the fact that
you're saying foul play, but it could have been something as simple as horsing around on the boat and him hitting his head. It could be somebody whacking him in the head. It could be finding him in the water face down. And this mark on the back of his head is some type of fluid disbursement, which I don't believe, because it was nowhere else on the body except right there. And if your blood is going to sink to the lowest level upon death, it would be all over the body, but we're not seeing that. So why is just the occipital have the deep red markings? So many questions. And let me stress, before you bother sending me another death threat, we don't know the answers. These boys, these young men on that boat could be completely innocent. But when I listen to this sound, there are a lot of questions. Back to Tezlyn Figaro, who is joining us. She's the host of the Tezlyn Figaro podcast. She is a social justice and political commentator. Have you noticed that people are making a lot of the fact that Nolan was, quote, drunk? A, how do they know that? And B, does it make a difference?
Yeah, well, I've absolutely noticed it, that he was allegedly, they're saying he was drunk, and it doesn't make a difference. And let me ask you this, Nancy. If he was drunk with other teenage kids, he certainly wasn't drunk by himself. So if he was drunk, why was he the only drunk one that ended up dead? Secondly, if this was an accident, let's say he just got so drunk and just passed out, why didn't anybody report it? So even if it was an accident, even if he got drunk, which I don't believe, by the way, even if all those things happened, why did his so-called friends not report it? That's the part that we're missing. So where's the answer to that, Nancy? He just went and just said, I'm just going to be drunk and just go in the middle of the ocean? By the way, even if all those things happened, why did his so-called friends not report it? That's the part that we're missing. So where's the...
I mean, this is one of the infamous still shots that people like to use, and I don't see a drink in Nolan's hand. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yes, there is. He got a can back in the back behind old boy. I think. But the other two, they definitely got a drink. So that's a good point. You know what I'm saying? How come he's the only one that just, he's the only one? Since he was the only black person, so not only can he not swim, but he can't hold his liquor. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we trying to say right now? Everybody has to be like, it's not just a situation where you can, or a circumstance where you can just pinpoint and allocate that towards one person. If there was multiple people who were engaging in the same activity that was actually with him, you know what I'm saying? Like, nice try, you know what I'm saying? Nice try. But until that toxicology report comes out, and they will be able to see if anything else was forced into his system and not taken over time, or not, not him putting it into his own body, him swallowing or him eating certain things. Because again, this type of stuff metabolizes. Okay, alcohol hits your stomach. It will go into the lining of your stomach and into your bloodstream, and that's why you feel all good and nice, and because it hits your bloodstream. All right. If somebody tries to force some alcohol or something down your throat, or after the fact, they're going to be able to tell. They're going to be able to tell people. They are, and people have tried to do this. That was supposedly the conspiracy behind Jimi Hendrix and his passing. Since he had a proclivity towards drugs and alcohol, but they just had they found a whole bunch of wine in his stomach, but none of it had actually hit none of it was in his blood. All right. So that means that somebody had tried to stage that or whatever. So there's ways of finding out. And like I said, shouts out to all them people who are oddly obsessed enough to know these types of things. You know what I'm saying? To be able to place add things up and put things together, these clues, right? Because like I said, unless these people who are actually with him, unless they actually get the guts to tell the truth, we're going to have to look at other evidence and other things to try to help us, figure out what happened to this young man.
Answer to that, Nancy. He just went and just said, I'm just going to be drunk and just go in the middle of the ocean and just die with hundreds and hundreds of people who are around, who are watching. Nobody saw anything happen. His friends didn't see anything happen. And again, I go back to this tape. I will not sit up here and pretend that I did not hear what was on that tape. And I ask again, even the operator said, who is breathing on the boat? Don't you think that's strange, Nancy? who's breathing.
Yes, when I first heard that, Tesla, I thought, I've never heard a dispatch say, who's breathing? What? Did she hear all that in the background and do nothing? Or did she hear it and say something and release it? We don't know, man. We got to paper everybody with subpoenas to get to the bottom of this. But I want to go to George Olivo and everybody on the panel. You're experts in your own right. Please tell me if you want to jump in. Please, I'm not clairvoyant. To George Olivo joining us. He's a former FBI special agent and polygraph examiner at georgeolivo.com. Okay, George, listen to what Officer Tatum told me. Back to Officer Tatum, star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. Have the friends taken polygraphs?
Well, from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me, that they all passed.
Who keep leaving the gate open for this nigga, man? Like, for real. Like, who is making him privy to all this information? Like I said, well, I'm just going to sound so sure. If you're not a part of Mississippi, you know what I'm saying, the enforcement team, you know what I'm saying, if you're not a part of the department where this shit happened, I doubt that people are just volunteering this information to you. Like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? But he just be trying to come through. Be quiet, free degree. He be trying to come through with super confidence and just like, well, if I just, you know how people, you know, here on YouTube be doing, and they have conversations and they be having these weak ass points, but they figure that if they say it with their chest and with a straight face, then people will believe them just a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Hell yeah, toe tapping Tatum. I call him Tater Tot. You know what I'm saying? Because he got a blockhead. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he's just, I don't know. Dude is always trying to insert himself into a situation. Like I said, bringing on these young men to interview them or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, shouts out to, you know, to the engineer who was smart enough to go and pull the original rescue call. Because I believe, and like I said, I have to go back and y'all can, you know, quote me on this one. Don't quote me on this one, but I believe they did the interviews first and then the audio came out. So regardless of whatever damage control they tried to do, Officer Tatum, okay, there's still a lot of holes in the story. There's still a lot of shit that they gotta explain. We gotta get to the bottom of this. But let's hear what he got to say. Don't want to, but shit, since he's here, goddamn.
And all of the ones that took a polygraph took one without a lawyer. And they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took a polygraph. Why do you say that's from what you understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed? Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it.
He said all of the boys except one. I bet you the one who didn't take it was Warren, because his judge, stepmama or mama, knows better. You understand what I'm saying? And that's another thing. Like I said, it becomes a conflict of interest because judges prosecute law enforcement. They know what's official. They know, you know what I'm saying, what's admissible and what's not, and what circumstances need to be present in order for something to be thrown out. They know all this shit. They know about coaching people to prepare them for trials and stuff. Like, come on, man. It shouts out, let me see here, Mr. Oh my gosh, not ovary massager, yikes. Yeah, welcome to the show. He says some dirt in the mayonnaise, that's for damn sure. Right, we're going to get into that, which I'm just like, bro, when you start hearing, you already know, nigga, you done fucked up. Like, why are you sitting up in here lying? You know what I'm saying? Especially to Nancy. Okay, do that if you want to. You know what I'm saying? She will remember, and she finna tear your ass up. Watch, you might be a part of her series way after this whole situation is over and done with, just because your integrity level is so low. You know what I'm saying? Your integrity level is so low to even call yourself an officer and all this other stuff. She might feel offended and she might come for you like that. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, lie to Nancy if you want to. Let's keep going.
Wasn't there. So that's what I'm saying from my understanding. They told me that all the boys except one, which is Warren, I believe, took a polygraph test. All of them did not have lawyers and did it and cooperated with police. Warren also cooperated with police. I just believe he didn't take a lot of the test, but Warren is the young man that I interviewed. So according to what they told me, they all took a lot of tests and passed. And it's an equivalent of a lot of tests. It's not a traditional lot of test, but it's the same theology of trying to get to.
This nigga just said with his whole chest that all but one took a polygraph. And then, like I said, well, this nigga started stuttering. Well, it was an equivalent. It was an equivalent to a polygraph. Wait, can't wait for Nancy to rebut from this, because like she don't play. Don't answer what you thought of, what you're prepped for. Don't answer your own questions. You answer what the hell I present. You answer my questions, sir. You don't get to prep behind the scenes and, oh, well, if she asked me this, then I'm going to just deflect and then go over here. No. That's not what she asked you, sir. And now you done had to millywop and backpedal and all kinds of shit to be like, you know what? It wasn't even no real polygraph. It was an equivalent. Like, bruh. It makes me wonder what type of police officer he actually was. You know what I'm saying? Like when he was active and on the streets and making all these, arrests and I wonder, you know what I'm saying? Would it be good enough for whoever that he pulled over to be like, well, I wasn't really speeding, you know what I'm saying? I was just, I had my foot on the accelerator to maybe a 45-degree angle, but that wasn't really speed. Like he give you your ticket and tell you, I'll see you in court on the day or pay your fine. He wouldn't go for this bullshit. It's so funny that people who would not accept this type of treatment or would not accept these types of answers think that it's perfectly fine to offer the bologna sandwich, you know what I'm saying, to somebody else. You're gonna have to come harder than that, bruh. Come on, Tater Tot. This is what I be talking about. Just embarrassing. No, it wasn't no real polygraph test, Drobo not. But he done said it how many times? He done said about 3 times already. Oh, all but one took a polygraph test and what? Tater Tot. Lord have mercy. What was his name? Hold on. What we call him? What we call toe tapping Tatum? Yeah, this nigga shoe shining. He better than Sammy Davis and Gregory Hines up in here. But who is he working for? I guess that'll come out in the wash later. I'm not going to concern myself with this because, again, it's about Nolan. It is about his family. It's not about this fool and all his antics and his deflection and him. Like I said, if you want the, black folks to believe somebody, you got to pay somebody. You got to get the right person for the job, okay? We don't believe in this nigga. You paid the wrong one. You paid the wrong actor. That's who you paid. You paid the wrong one because he's not convincing to us. We not buying it. Y'all, you know what I'm saying? Whoever the y'all are, but y'all know who you are. You know what I'm saying? Probably lapping this stuff up. You know what I mean? See, even he said black people don't blah blah blah. Like, see, that's why we got to be careful. You know what I'm saying? We have to be careful with our rhetoric. If you're going to come through with some facts, then fine. If you're a part of the investigation, then you shouldn't even be talking in public like this in the first place. But, you know what I'm saying? Here we are. Hold on. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, Facebook's having some problems with okay. Let me get this off the screen. Sorry, y'all. Sorry, it blocked my whole comment section. Listen, you said it, not me, brother. Welcome to the show, Lone Ranger. Y'all make sure to double tap that screen on the vertical side, the thumbs up the video, fair use for the juice. Let's keep going.
A person's line. I don't know the name of it. It's an equivalent of a lot of techniques. It's a different methodology. I don't believe it was a polygraph test. I believe they took other stressors in order to analyze.
Now this nigga just said that they didn't take. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done. All right, let's see how she gonna handle him, because I promise Auntie Nancy, she gonna handle him like nobody else. See, if we had to trade somebody in like the race Olympics, let's trade, you know what I'm saying? Let's trade Tatum for we'll let y'all have him and we gonna take Nancy. How about that? We gonna swap them out. We gonna give Nancy her official black card, you know what I'm saying, and all that. And then she invited to the cookout from this day forth. All those who agree say aye. Aye.
So then the answer to did they take a polygraph would be no. He's charming. He's well spoken. But that was no. That was a no. They did not take a polygraph test, and not all of them took the, as he is calling it, the equivalent. Okay, George Olivo, in my experience as a trial lawyer, there is no equivalent for a polygraph. Tell me the various bodily indicators a polygraph measures.
So polygraph does have very specific markers, and we're looking for physiological changes in baseline or truth signatures. So we're looking at things like respiration, heart rate, electrodermal activity, which most people interpret as sweat gland activity. We're looking at peripheral movements to try and determine if someone's trying to cheat on the test. So it's quite extensive. And I think what the Officer Tatum was probably referring to, whether he'd realized it or not, was the voice stress analyzer. I think he used that word one time, some kind of stressor test. It's probably that they might have taken.
Hi guys, American homeowners. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate to fix it. Do an practice beating a poly in FBI special equity today. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Nancy, or just use the link below. And good luck. I'm speaking to an expert, former FBI special agent polygrapher, George Olivo. As I recall, just off the top of my head, a polygraph measures things you really cannot control unless you can have studied and practiced beating a poly. Involuntary physical stress responses, blood pressure, heart rate, breathing rate, whether you're sweating, tubes around your chest and abdomen track your breathing, and even not just how fast you're breathing, but the depth of your breathing. Does your breathing become shallow? Do you have to pause and take deep breaths to calm yourself down? A traditional poly, measures cardiovascular activity. There's a blood pressure cuff on your arm, and it measures your pulse and your blood pressure fluctuation. It also measures what's called electrodermal activity. What is that? I've had to explain it a million times to jurors. Sensors attached to the fingers measure your sweat gland activity and even your skin electrical conductivity. The examiner then asks neutral questions like, is your name George Olivo? Are you from Cincinnati, Ohio? Are you from LA, California? Are you a polygrapher? Were you with the FBI? Were you there when Nolan Wells died? That's how that would work. You would lay a foundation of non-disturbing questions, baseline questions they're called, to get the person that's being subjected to a poly to get their baseline heart rate, their blood pressure, and so forth. Then when you hit them with a question regarding the case, you see if there's any change in that. Okay, I know I'm speaking as a layperson, George Olivo, but those are some of the things a polygraph measures.
You nailed it. Yeah, that's right, Nancy. And let me just add that the correlation between deception and physiology is nothing new. It goes back 4,000 years. Back in China, when the emperor was questioning one of his subjects, he would have a doctor standing by to listen to the heart rate to determine if the person was telling the truth or not. We've been studying it ever since.
What is the test that Officer Tatum is talking about? What is he referring?
I think, and he was kind of cryptic, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, maybe he didn't really know, but it sounded like he was referring to a voice stress analyzer. Those are these machines that detect microstressors electronically in the voice. The research is very weak on that and that type of technology. I guess it's better than nothing, but the bottom line is, and I'm speaking as a polygraph examiner, and I'm saying this, no diagnostic tool, and you know this obviously, should ever be used as a final verdict. I mean, it is just one piece of the truth puzzle, but obviously if you had a choice between a voice stress analyzer and a polygraph, there's really no comparison. A polygraph is going to be way more preferable.
Well, I mean, even polygraphs are not allowed in a criminal trial unless both parties stipulate they will be allowed to up front before the poly's even taken. They are allowed in civil trials. And isn't it true, George Olivo, you're the former FBI polygrapher, isn't it true the questions matter? They're critical. Because if you throw opening questions like, did you do anything wrong? Or what happened that day? You can't ask questions like that. You really have to ask yes, no questions, and then they can expound upon it. Your questions must be very specific. Isn't that true?
100%. Yeah. Test question construction is something that is going to, well, a lot of things are going to make or break a test, but test question construction is key. And, something is, let's say, there's a missing child, a missing person, and you ask someone of interest, are you responsible for their disappearance? Well, that's a terrible question because, they may feel morally responsible. If only I had been more careful, they feel guilty. And so you're asking the wrong question there. So you really have to get
Or you could have asked the perp that grabs the kid off the street, are you responsible for the disappearance? They go, no, because in their mind, it's the parent's fault because the child was out on the street. Hadn't have anything to do with me. I just gave him a ride before I killed him. That said, you can't leave anything open to interpretation, just like you and I are describing. So
even that, just that little breakdown, that little synopsis, it just really shows how far people will go to escape responsibility. All right, that's all I wanted to say real quick. Because damn, if somebody would, well, shoot, if the parents were, if they wouldn't have had, the kid was out there on the street, I just gave him a ride home before golly, people will, but they will do and say a lot of shit just to help them sleep at night. So I don't know why I'm so surprised. It just reveals, the ugliness and the selfishness of people, you know what I'm saying? Because they definitely want what they want. They want you out of here. They want you, you know what I'm saying? They want to take the money. They want to commit, you know what I'm saying, the crime. They want to benefit, but they don't want to pay no consequences. They don't want to be accountable of being immoral. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just like, hey, they want their cake and they eat it too. They want to be able to cause transgressions and pay no consequences. Like, whoo, people.
When I would agree to a polygraph, I never stipulated it would come into court, ever. But when I would agree to a polygraph as an investigative tool, I would take part in selecting the questions and creating the questions. Because frankly, let's just be honest, George, a voice stress test where the prosecutor or the investigator is not in charge of the questions ain't worth a hill of beans, technical legal jargon. That means nothing to me.
I'd agree with you there.
Let me put it more clearly. Voice stress test, my rear end. That ain't coming into court. In fact, I wouldn't even pay any attention to it. Now, you give me a polygraph where I help fabricate the questions? Maybe. I want to know who was the polygrapher. Is he somebody the defense hires all the time so they're beholden to the defense? No, I want somebody like Olivo that did it with the FBI. So telling me these boys, as they call them, they're young men, took, first it was a poly, then I find out it's a voice stress test, took a test and they passed. Oh, except one of them didn't take it. That means nothing. Put them on a poly with questions approved by the state. Then I'll pay attention. Right now, it's really not worth the salt that goes in my bread. You know what? If I wanted someone to pass one of these lie detector tests, I'd go with a voice test like these young men took. I wouldn't let them take a polygraph. Susan Hendricks joining us, investigative journalist and reporter. Death threats, including one that says, blood will be everywhere. What was that?
That was from a man out of Sacramento, now arrested and threatening the judge who is the stepmother of Warren. And talk about fright.
Confirmation. Okay, she's a stepmama. Still, conflict of interest. she watched this boy grow. She probably was, you know, she had to watch him and was a part of his rearing. She cares about him. You know what I'm saying? In one capacity or another. You know, she with his daddy. So, if she's a they better find somebody else to handle the case. That's all I know, because that's definitely gonna cause some friction right there.
Saying a lot of blood, there'll be a lot of blood like there was on the boat, but yours will be much faster.
The perp is Joseph Alfredo Vasquez de Mars, arrested Thursday on charges of interstate transmission of threatening communication. Now, these are federal documents. What did he threaten one of the young men's mom with, Susan?
The threats were against Warren, one of the boys on the boat, his stepmother, who is a judge. And it was graphic. It was brutal, saying there will be blood everywhere, threatening her life, talking about on the boat.
It really does. It says that he is sending a bomb to her office that will, quote, blow you away when you see it. Once that package is open, the timer will start. Then you have 10 seconds or less to ask God for forgiveness. So much blood everywhere. Hard to clean, especially from a boat. That was in that letter. And there is another death threat, Susan Hendricks, to Mississippi law enforcement saying, don't go outside. What happened with that?
Yeah, Cincinnati, Ohio woman calling two officials out of Mississippi several times, more than 25 times. Here is her mugshot. And you're right, don't go outside, saying there's a bomb. So the threats are they're taking them seriously, as they should, and 2 arrests so far.
That's right. A woman now accused of bomb threats to government offices related to the Nolan Wells investigation. This is an Ohio woman facing federal charges. Michelle Francine Edwards, just charged in the U.S. District Court, Southern District, Mississippi. 1 count, transmitting threatening communications to interstate commerce. Okay. Nobody can do their job appropriately when they're under a death threat. That's against Mississippi law enforcement. Trust me, there are people within law enforcement that are trying to do the right thing. Threats on one of the young men's mothers. That's not all. Teslin Figaro, Nolan's family, has gotten threats too.
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't condone violence on anybody, but I do want to put some context behind this, Nancy, as well. I was a police officer in the Air Force. You're talking about government officials, meaning I'm sure the judge has received threats. I'm sure the police officer has received threats, although they should not happen. But these are individuals that have taken, just like you and I, have taken on, you know, positions that it comes with the territory. You have received death threats. I have received death threats. So the people that's not being talked about that's received the death threats is Nolan Wells' mother and father. Why is nobody talking about the death threats with them?
Yeah, that's very, I mean, I'm not saying, hey, see, these ladies are, they're a lot, I don't know, they're seasoned. I'll just say that, because they're not saying that it comes with the territory, but it kind of comes with the territory. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to expect at least a little something for somebody to be, you know, a little obsessed. You know what I mean? A little crazy, a little deranged. You know what I mean? They gonna say something stupid. But I think, again, that the part that shouldn't be happening and the part that's very bothersome is the fact that the Wells family is being attacked. The Wells family is, I mean, damn, they already took one person from their family. Why are they receiving more threats on their lives? Why is the mother receiving poor ratings and reviews on her business when she needs she needs her job? You know what I mean? She needs a way of keeping income coming into the house. They're going to need it. You know, they put up a GoFundMe or whatever. That's going to be a problem too. If they try to get it on their own, people are trying to stop them. I mean, it's just like, is the deletion of the whole family? Is that what the goal is? Because I will never understand why or how the general public can be so insensitive towards the people who are actually suffering in a certain situation with hatred and negativity and violence. It's just, I will never understand it, and it's okay. That's probably one of the things that I was not meant to understand, and I'm fine with that as well. Let's keep on going because we almost finished.
Reported it. Why isn't anybody arresting the people who are actually harassing the victims? It's online. It's available for people to see. So I just find it very interesting that there's so much sympathy for a police officer who not only do they receive death threats, they put their life on the line. They signed up and raised their hand to say, hey, pick me for the death threats and pick me to give my very life as I did in the Air Force. So it is not right what is happening, but we also have to shine a light on the actual victims, the actual people who are grieving the loss of their son, and nobody gives a damn about the death threats that they're receiving.
I want to be very clear, Ms. Figueroa. You say nobody cares. That's not true. I care. I care. I care about the death threats on Nolan's mother and his family and his team. I also care about death threats on one of these boys' mother and on law enforcement. And yes, my first death threat, oh my goodness, came back in the 80s. But guess what? They faxed it to me from the Fulton County Jail. So that wasn't much of a mystery. But with every time you take a position, you make people angry. The thing is, if these threats, including the ones on Nolan's mother, the mother, you know what I'm doing all night long till 2 o'clock, Miss Figueroa? I'm packing my children to go away to college. That's what Nolan's mother should be doing tonight. She should be getting him ready to go back to school. Instead, she's visiting his remains. And now, death threats. We want justice in this case. We don't want secret grand jury proceedings. We don't want secret medical examiner reports. We want all threats investigated. We want the truth behind that audio. I want to know. And I want everybody on that boat polygraphed. We want answers. If you know, or you think you know anything about this case, dial 228-769-3063. Tonight, we honor Canine Echo, protected while serving the Sartell PD, Minnesota, because a group called Vested Interest in Canines created a bullet and stab-proof protected vest and protected Echo. These things aren't standard. They're over $1,000 each. And I've seen many canines die on crime scenes. Protect those canines who protect us. We remember an American hero, Officer Brian Huff, Detroit PD, shot in the line of duty after 12 years, leaving behind his wife, Melissa, and their son, Blair. American hero, Officer Brian Huff. Thank you to
All right. That was the end of the review, y'all. Yeah, we getting deep into it, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the more that I'm looking into it, you know, especially in the evenings, that's what I spend my time doing. It's pretty much just trying to stay up to date with what is the most current details or word or development in this situation so you won't have to fish through so much information or misinformation yourself. Like I said, I'm getting a lot of this stuff straight from the horse's mouth. It'll be rare, or I probably won't even be including other content creators or commentators when it comes to this actual case, because I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. So we're going to be, like I said, more covering news outlets, real journalists, Nancy Grace, who's a former prosecutor, we'll keep her in rotation, just to make sure that we are getting, the most accurate news from people who have actual who have actual integrity and are in this situation and looking into it because they are actually concerned and want justice. That's who I'm trusting. So, it's really unfortunate, you know what I mean, that, like I said, he should be getting ready to go back to college, you know what I mean? He was on the football team. He have a whole season that he had to get ready for, you know what I mean? That he was probably looking forward to. And he won't get to do that. That's just sad, you know what I'm saying? That's the overarching point, man. And that's what we need to just keep in mind, you know what I'm saying, as we're listening, as we're following, and just keep them, keep the Wells family in your prayers, man. Keep them in your prayers. They're going to need it. I know that they're strong. I know that they have been, keeping it together, but I can only imagine what their nights look like. I can only imagine what the next, 10, 15 years are going to look like, because they have other children. And I hope that they get to watch those kids grow into be adults. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to think about what age Nolan would have been. I wonder what he would have been doing with his life. They're always going to wonder that. They're always going to think about him. You guys keep them in your prayers and in your thoughts, man. All right, well, that was all that I wanted to cover today. I'm gonna bust this episode down into some nice digestible chunks for y'all. For the replay, thank you for everybody that showed up on both the horizontal and vertical side. Shouts out and welcome to all the new subscribers that joined the channel. Please make sure you keep your notification bells on so you know each and every time that I go live. Keep participating in the chat. I love when the chat be chatting, man. It's good engagement. It's good for the channel. All right. Again, you know what I'm saying? If you haven't if you kind of came a little bit late, then just hit the replay, hit the rewind button. It's not gonna take I've only been on for 2.5 hours, so it's not a terribly long stream, but it's getting straight to the nitty gritty. We've got the articles with the 2 individuals who were arrested, federally, charged with crimes of intimidation and threatening a person with violence. And yeah, they have been, I think, given 5 years. So let's not even keep our fingers crossed. Let's just, like I said, let's just keep the faith in the justice system, that in a short time we will start hearing some charges being brought to individuals who had something to do with this case. All right, you guys, I appreciate y'all so much. I'm about to get up out of here. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see y'all the next time. All right, take care. We out.
It's all about the journey. Where are you going? Fire in my eyes, I keep on growing. This is a